What's going on, y'all? It's TG3 here, back again on Phenomenal Fatherhood. Welcome to another happy Phenomenal Fatherhood Friday. Is it Friday? It is Friday. So I know y'all looking forward to the weekend. This one's really special to me personally. We're going to highlight another father named Jeremy Hall. Known Jeremy for, 20 years, maybe less than that, but somewhere in double digits, you know what I mean? So I've known Jeremy for quite some time before he had kids. After he had his baby, Jeremy's known me since I had, a 2-year-old, 1-year-old. So I'm really looking forward to it. And remember, you don't have to be perfect to be phenomenal. That's what it's all about. So hopefully y'all get something out of it. I know you will, just because of the caliber of person that he is. So
Thank you.
let's dive right in. So Jeremy, if you want to introduce yourself and then start with your most proud dad moment, most recent proud dad moment. I know I asked you that recently on Sunday, but we have them every day. It's just a matter of bringing it to our awareness. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'll let you go.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you, Tillman. Yeah, we've known each other for quite some time, over a decade now. Before you had TG4, in fact, because I was there at the baby shower, really excited, just admiring the fact that you were younger than me, but becoming a father, moving on to that next stage of life, and then seeing you grow as a father has been awesome. But Jeremy Hall, I am a practicing attorney in the Woodlands Spring area. I've been practicing for nearly 15 years now, and grew up in the Houston area and went to school on the East Coast, Washington, D.C. for undergrad. I played college baseball, so that's a big part of my background, being a college athlete, and definitely has shaped my mindset a lot in business and what I do now. And Tillman and I got to know each other personally, and then we volunteered together as well on the 4th of July committee, the South County 4th of July Parade Committee, of which I was honored to serve for 8 or so years, and took over as the president in 2022 and asked Tillman to serve. And of course, he jumped in right away and was our media and marketing chair, a very special role to me because that's the role that I was in before taking over the president's chair. And did a great job. We put on the 4th of July parade in the Woodlands and worked together on that. And I've been involved in other organizations, served on the Meals on Wheels board, and then on my local HOA board. So board service is a big part of my life as well. And I am married to the beautiful Ruby Hall and have been for 4.5, almost 5 years now. In February will be our 5th anniversary. I'm not sure what element that is. I'll have to look it up before the anniversary comes. We've had paper, cloth, I won't try to name them all, even though there's only 4, but been married for 4 years and welcomed our daughter Remy into the world September 10th, 2021. So she is about to turn 3 here in a few weeks and has been looking forward to her birthday basically since the last one.
Yeah.
But she's a character. She's a handful. My mom used to call it the Terrific Twos, so to do away with the terrible moniker. But all of the challenges you can imagine when raising a 2-year-old, I am facing right now, as you well know, those challenges. So shout out to my wife, Ruby, and my daughter, Remy. I love them dearly. And I heard Tim Walls say, "My family is my whole world." And, that resonated with me a little bit. My family is my world, too. I think God gives us other responsibilities outside of our family. So I don't know if whole world, all-encompassing, is the right way to capture it, but they do mean the world to me and love them dearly and just honored to be a part of the show as a father.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. So quick note real quick. I will always be very, very grateful to Jeremy because unbeknownst to him, he got me one of the best presents ever. Because if you don't have a good swing for your baby that's brand new, you're not sleeping. That's a huge tip right there. When Tillman was first born, the nurse told me, she's like, "Hey, I know you're super young. You just had a baby. If I could give you any advice, sleep when the baby sleeps." And I think that's what I told you whenever you first had Remy.
For sure.
But I still wasn't getting sleep. And then I was like, you know what? Let me put together this swing that Jeremy bought me. Game changer.
Nice.
So that was like the best swing because he would not be in the crib. He would sleep in my bed sometimes, but he would be in that swing. He'd just be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm in my little cocoon. I'm ready to go." I'm like, "Yes, I need you to be sleeping," you know. So I actually got rest. But shout out to my fiance, my three kids, Tillman, Aubrey, and Mia. Like, you know, we're all locked in. So just wanted to shout them out real quick. They mean the world to me as well. So if you're watching this, thank you very much. You know how I feel about you. And yeah, I guess the first question, well, your most recent proud dad moment for the terrific twos. What a spin that is. I'm going to be using that forever.
That's right. Yeah. I watched the video of us at church at Woods Edge filming some of the questions on stage, and it was great. And when you asked me that, I thought, man, you know, last time I was up here, I was praying for Remy in the child dedication. And so probably I'll say it again, my proudest dad moment is hearing Remy pray and hearing her volunteer to step up and pray, teaching her to pray at nighttime with the "Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep" recitation prayer, which she does under duress some nights. But, you know, bucking back against mom and dad is the mission sometimes. The prayers at meal times now, she volunteers to pray. Sometimes it's just so she can get to nomming on, you know, cheese or strawberry milk or whatever it is that she wants to break open. But hearing her pray and hearing her pray from the heart has been a really proud moment for me, following in mom in my footsteps after hearing us pray. But recently, a new thing that I'm proud of, and also of my wife, is she's teaching a class, almost like homeschool moms, but before school age, called Tiny Scholars. And they've even expanded into another class called Tiny Disciples. That's a faith-based class, an additional once-a-week class, Mondays and Thursdays. And Remy put together a presentation about her with an art board and went down the list of things that she liked and was interested in, favorite animal, what she's looking forward to, and things like that. And so I watched the video of it, but she gave it to me again this morning at breakfast. So I was very proud to see her complete her first assignment in pre-kindergarten.
3 pre's on it. That's impressive, man. That is impressive for her to actually put that together and put thought into it. You know, that's some of my best moments is like seeing them use their imagination, put it to use, and just to see what they come up with at these ages is just like, wow. Sometimes, like, it just floors you how they can even do that at such a young age. So, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is like, how did you feel when you first became a dad? Like, if you can go back into a time machine, obviously it was a couple years ago, but a lot of dads that I talk to, you know, that's like a big concern, you know, and which is good because right before you go on stage, you're typically nervous before you care. So when the baby is in the womb, you're typically on pins and needles. How am I going to be as a dad? All these different unanswered questions. How am I going to provide? How am I going to protect? You know, it could bring a lot of anxiety and it could be very overwhelming for a lot of dads. And that's something that doesn't really get talked about. So, yeah, just kind of what are your thoughts on, you know, that whole part of before you became a dad? What are some of the challenges that you face and how'd you overcome them?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I think just to echo your thoughts, I was really concerned when I knew I was going to become a father. And that's always been something that God has had on my heart, I think, since a young age, even though I never really articulated it, never really was out front with it, you know, because it's not necessarily cool to talk about, you know, getting married or having kids when you're with your boys. You know, that's more of things that the ladies talk about and aspire to and are, I guess, more honest about in the end, at least than I was. But absolutely, when I got married and even before then, and of course, when Remy was on the way, I knew that that was God fulfilling one of the desires that I had for a long time. But also in my own humanity, just feeling like, you know, I wasn't fully prepared and knowing that you're never going to be fully prepared. I went through that whole analysis with marriage. Like, am I ready to become a husband? Because that is a very important role that God gives us and something that we should take seriously. I think even more so than our careers, our relationship with our wife, you know, it starts at home. And then fatherhood, in a marriage, you have two people pulling equal weight, both striving towards the same goals, supporting each other. But in fatherhood or in parenthood, you're responsible for a little life. And there's a minimum standard. You want them to be a productive member of society and have a positive impact on the world, and not do things to hurt other people, be polite, things like that. But in a real sense, I feel like, kind of like I did with marriage, it's a calling from God, and you want to step up. And it's not that there's no second chances, because God always gives us second chances, but it's not the place to carelessly make mistakes when you're responsible for another life. I can deal with making mistakes in my own life and maybe beat myself up too much or strive to do better the next time. But imputing that on someone else and, not stepping up to do my job or making a fatal mistake in fatherhood is something, that's the ultimate dread. And so just feeling like, I was facing this almost insurmountable challenge. I always thought about it as, I forget exactly how I captioned it, but it's basically an irreversible, most important assignment that you're ever given, because once those wheels are set in motion, there's no returning them. There's no taking it back. There's no hitting the pause button.
Nope.
It's on.
Yeah.
So, I knew when we found out that Ruby was pregnant that I was going to be accepting this lifetime, irreversible, unpausable role in 9 months. And so God had been preparing me for a lifetime, but I had a 9-month sort of training camp to get ready to be a father. And was I doing everything that I needed to do? Was I prepared up until this point? Could I even go on a 9-month camp and be ready to be a father? Just not wanting to mess it up in a very human sense, but just wanting to do the best that I could do and what God called me to do. And so I would say that it's like marriage. It's like anything that you do that you think, man, I'm not really fully prepared. I don't have all my I's dotted and T's crossed and haven't checked all the boxes and read all the books, like Seth Rogen and Knocked Up. I haven't done all of my homework to be a father. Lord, how could you choose me? I'm not ready. I'm not worthy at this point. Let me get ready some more, and then maybe I can be. And so there's never that perfect time in your life. There's never that, okay, now I'm ready to green light fatherhood. It was greenlit already. So I was getting ready and just accepting my own imperfections. And some of the greatest lessons I've learned have been in fatherhood and accepting those imperfections, seeing different things that come naturally that are inborn through my daughter, and accepting things about myself that were really hard to accept before that. So to all the dads out there, or all the expecting fathers, potential fathers, people, dads and moms and dads who have it on their heart to have kids someday, you're never going to be perfectly ready. You're never going to have read all the right books or have done all the right things, but God will give you what you need. And so that's been the biggest takeaway for me in becoming a father.
I love that. And you said something really important there that I really want to circle back to, is that, you're never going to be perfectly ready. I think every dad can relate to the 9-month boot camp, but I have a very unpopular opinion that I know some people are not going to like, but it is what it is. It doesn't sell as many books. But what I usually recommend to dads that are expecting, or even like you said, it's not really cool for us to be like, yeah, one day I want to be a dad, but guess
Cool,
what?
bro.
It is cool.
It is.
This is why we have Phenomenal Fatherhood. So some of the coolest people are dads. But my unpopular opinion is this. Now that I have 3, if anybody who's expecting children or they want to have children, my advice to them is start working on your distasteful habits now.
Amen.
Because more so than reading all the books is the simple fact that when they come into this world, they're such a sponge. And nobody ever talks about this. Like, they're going to be looking at you saying, oh, are you smoking? Are you drinking? Are you lying? Are you
picking your nose?
Are you picking your nose? Like, anything that is a bad habit of yours, trust me, you will be exposed. So Just deal with it. And I'm gonna tell you what happened. The game changer was for me was, my son, he was about Remy's age. He laid down in the bed one day and put both of his hands behind his head and like crossed his feet, like getting ready to watch a show. And I walked into the room and I was like, yo, that's me. Like, I gotta change everything. But if I would have known beforehand, hey, you might want to be a little bit more conscious about what you do and what you say and what you see and how you move, because they're gonna be like unconsciously picking all that up. So I think that's even more important than reading all the books and being so prepared, like, because that's your own self-analysis, your own self-awareness of like, okay, is this action something I want my child to be doing? Just being conscious of it in the beginning is like a game changer. So if I could turn back the time, I would definitely do that.
And what was the rub there with chillaxing on the bed watching shows? Just that, hey, we don't want to be in that posture naturally. No days off. We need.
I thought it was cool.
Okay.
But I thought it was cool, but it was just like such a snapshot of how much they pick up to me.
I didn't teach him this.
Yeah, I didn't even show him that. I didn't say nothing about it. It's just a simple fact that he modeled it. Just showed me how much more like he's really watching me more than I even think. You know what I mean? So that was like a really, really big eye-opening experience. It wasn't bad or good or bad or anything. It was just like, okay, wow, all right, I really got to watch like every action. So it just brought more awareness to it.
Yeah, parenthood really holds up a mirror to yourself more so than really anything else you can do to yourself. I mean, if you're a reflective person, if you meditate and ponder, if you're open to criticism, which is one of my things to work on, and listen to other people around you, and you have people in your life that are brave enough to speak truth to you and you accept that, then you can be self-aware. But there's no self-awareness like you just described, like seeing your kid model something that you didn't teach, you didn't necessarily want to impart to them, but they just picked it up, or they were just born that way. And, that's kind of a different topic, but I'll just mention really quickly, seeing Remy, there's one moment she was at a restaurant and she dropped a toy and clapped her legs together and caught it. And I thought, it was kind of a similar moment. I thought, I didn't teach her that. And that's a catch. It's a catch with the feet. But it kind of changed my perspective when I reflected on it that, I always wanted to teach my kid baseball because that's what I played until I was 23. And I'm not teaching them to catch. I'm just showing them, revealing to them what God has already put in them, that natural instinct to catch. So God's put it there. I'm just sort of chipping away at what techniques equal a good catch. Or it was just fascinating to me to see that that was something I didn't teach, but hey, there's a catch. So God's already 100 steps ahead of me. I don't have to teach the catch. It's already there.
Yeah. And you'll be surprised. And you know what? I do want to move on from this point, but it's important that I highlight this too. It's even on an emotional level, which was mind-blowing. That was like a second rendition of what happened with my son, laying back in the bed. But this is a more recent one. So sometimes I could be very hard on myself, just candidly. I can have a to-do list of 75 things, get 70 of them done, and I will be up at night laying in bed thinking about the 5 things I didn't get done. Mm-hmm. So my fiance came to me one day in the kitchen and was like, hey, like Tillman, he's like, so shout out to Ariana if you're watching this, I love you. She came to me and was like, hey, Tillman's really hard on himself. Like he'll knock out his chores. He'll be responsible. He'll do all the stuff he's supposed to do as an 8-year-old, but sometimes he'll be like really beating himself up, or he even gets like really distraught, even if I like get on to him about something. Right. And obviously he's my only son. So I want him to like be prepared and be responsible and be ready for anything that life is going to throw at him. But it kind of was like a self-reflection moment when she brought it up to me, because I was like, man, that's how I am. Mm-hmm. And so I really had to, and this is recent too, like maybe a couple months ago. So in order to counteract that, what I did was I had a conversation with him, So I brought him into the room. I sat on the bed so I could be eye level with him. Had a one-on-one conversation with Till and was like, "Hey, listen. Like sometimes do you feel like you could be very hard on yourself, or sometimes if you get all this stuff done, or I just had a real conversation with him, and you'll be surprised at how like just opening up to them and allowing them to speak, they'll really give you some real answers. So he's like, well, yeah, sometimes but I just want to be the best, or I just want to do the best for you. And I basically was explaining to him like, hey, my my criticism, if you feel like it's criticism, or when I come on you about stuff, it's only out of love. But how about this? It's something that I struggle with too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So why don't we learn how to walk through this together? And as I'm learning, I'll share with you what I've been learning. So that way it won't be something that is like belaboring you as you get older. And he was like lit up and then just came and gave me like a big hug. And I was like, wow. So then I started going to like Google and Chat GPT and trying to really figure out like how I can get better in that way. And it was more so about me focusing on, kind of like Tony Robbins says, like the quality of your life depends upon what you focus on. So incorporating more things about being grateful, incorporating with the kids, like more opportunities to celebrate them, looking for things that they're doing right versus things that they're doing wrong. So in our household, like if they already have, like, let's say a chore to empty the dishwasher, when they empty the dishwasher, I try to be like, oh, I see you being on top of your chores without me having to ask you. I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And also taking a conscious effort to do that to myself. So if
Yeah.
I say I'm going to get this invoice out by the end of the day of Friday, and then Friday comes and I got the invoice out, I'm like, look at you, Tillman, getting that invoice out by noon. Okay, I see you, baby. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
And the cool thing about it is that since my son has my name, it's a generational name, I've realized that as I'm affirming him, in a way, I'm kind of affirming myself.
Amen to that.
So that's been a huge emotional game changer. So it's the physical side, but also the emotional side. Of the habits. So if you're constantly stressed, you're constantly anxious, you're constantly overworked, that whole energy the kids pick up more than what you actually say. So that was just another piece I wanted to touch on. What's been your biggest surprises so far as a father?
Man, I kind of use this in our last chat, but I would say that you can have the perfect game plan, but just be prepared to throw it out the window.
Yeah.
I like to be well prepared in what I do, whether it's the show or trying cases or parenthood, obviously, with an extra level of gravity. But having the perfect game plan of what you're going to teach your kid or where they need to be by a certain phase. I mean, I even took my baby book out that my mom meticulously wrote in and recorded all of my, first steps or first time sitting up, first time being alone without crying. I mean, just everything. First time at the zoo, first time at the beach. And I marked it, and then I marked the dates out on the calendar that Remy needed to be at, or like the benchmarks for development. And so whether it's teaching her Bible verses or memorizing the night prayer or finishing a meal or just developmental things, to have those goals are good, just like being prepared or being nervous about being a dad is good, but also just being willing to make adjustments. And it's kind of in the same vein as you getting 70 things done and appreciating that and not being too frustrated at the 5. It's what is God's plan and seeing that. And yes, God gave us the ability to prepare and make plans, but just because I didn't get all 75 done in the fatherhood scope for a 1-year-old that I had imagined doesn't mean things aren't going according to plan. They're going according to God's plan. So just being willing to see that and appreciate it and make adjustments on the fly and not consider yourself a failure or you haven't achieved what you set out to, but just knowing that there's a much bigger plan in place for your child's development than your own.
I love that. I love that. So you just made me think about something that I haven't never asked a guest, but I've been wanting to ask this. But I'm going to preface the question by saying this. So I don't think that I would be doing business at the level I'm doing business if it wasn't for my children, because there's so many interwoven examples, so many interwoven lessons. Like one of them that sticks out to me specifically is that what you said about stages of development. So different businesses go through stages of development, and I don't think that as a young man in my 20s I really understood that when it came to business. I know in the Bible it talks about seed time and harvest, but I wanted stuff to pop off now. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm ready to get it going now. I want to make $10,000 a month now. I want to make $15,000 a month yesterday. You know what I mean?
Right.
But with children, it's like you have the embryo, you have the infancy, you know, then they go to toddlers, they have preteens, they have teenagers, they have these different stages of development, and each one has its own, you know, pros and cons and its own challenges. So professionally, I've always known you to handle things at an extremely high level. You're always extremely prepared.
Thank you.
Even when you feel like you're not prepared, I'm like, dang, this dude's the most prepared person I know. What am I doing with my life? You know what I'm saying?
Thank you for that.
So what has like having Remy, like how has that helped you professionally with some of the lessons you learned as a father? And I think a lot of guys could get a lot from that, because I think that as guys we're so tapped in with like work, or we're so tapped in with what our professional lives are, that we don't even realize that the stuff that we're learning as a father can immediately translate to our business or whatever we do to earn income.
Yeah. Yeah, I think going back to something you said earlier, just about the sponges that kids are, there's no hiding when you're a parent. When you have a fully actualized, developed, perfect household with two loving parents who have all the time in the world to spend with their kid, yeah, it can be easier. And I can't act like I'm with Remy 24/7 or even the primary caretaker. So there's really no hiding for mom. But for me, you know, some of the things where your time is not really your own anymore, and there's no like, hey, you know, just give me five, especially when they're young, you know, hey, you know, just get even 5 minutes, you know, no, there's no 5 minutes. When you're on, you are on the clock. And so just being responsible with my time. I think in business, there's always those things to work on that are more enjoyable or more fun, or that are good things. Marketing is one that I really enjoy. So editing videos, or making a new graphic, or just doing things that maybe weren't the core things that I needed to be doing right then. I could get away with convincing myself they were productive things, and maybe I could rearrange some things and still get everything done that I needed to. And now, as I'm trying to teach Remy that, you know, I just asked you to do something, and I'm just, or first let me, or all the different things. There's always 10 other things, you know, that are really exciting to do. And some of them are positive things, you know, and she's even getting to the point where she knows that, you know, some of the things that she's saying are good things that we've told her to do. So she kind of, you know, I'm getting boxed in already. Like, I can't tell you, you know, no, that, you know, don't do that. That's a bad thing. I don't want to scold you for doing something good. But immediate unconditional obedience is what we expect as parents. And so imparting that to her, and then looking at my own life and thinking, well, there may not be anyone here right now in the office looking over my shoulder. God's always watching, but am I doing what I'm telling you to do? Just like with the bad habits. Being a hypocrite is something that, you know, it's kind of hypocritical even to say full circle, but it's something that I notice about others a lot. And so I immediately sort of mark that down in my mental checklist as, you know, a note on character. When I see someone, a very clear example of saying one thing and then doing another, or telling someone to do something and then not being willing to do it yourself. And so reflecting on that and applying it to my own life, I now have the strength, or am gaining the strength, to say, you know what, you have priorities for Remy, and when you tell her to do something, you expect her to do it right away. And is this the thing that you need to be doing right now? It may be a good thing, and you may be able to give yourself a small pat on the back, or sort of pat your conscience and say, oh, well, I'm still doing something good. But is this the number one thing that God has called me to do right now? And even if there's no one watching, I need to do it. I've got to step up, because that's what I expect. So it's a reflection on myself, and being responsible with my time, and being immediately obedient to what God's told me to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. That's a big one right there. When you talk about the mirror, that is the mirror. You know, am I doing what I'm telling my child to do? So another thing that a lot of dads struggle with that I want to get your opinion on, especially as a high performer, is that I heard one time that Kobe Bryant said he had to create the black mamba on the court in order to create a gap in between the two identities of the person he had to be in his professional life versus in his personal life. So,
Mhm.
how have you found ways to kind of handle that? I know a lot of guys struggle with that.
Yeah. Back in the days when I was, out partying, doing my own thing, I had an alter ego, and I used that to kind of, I guess, blame some of the things that I did on, this other person, this other character. Um, I won't go into too much detail about that, but that was, I guess, my early life example of that separation. Very similar to the Mamba. It's an alter ego. That one wasn't doing too many good things. It was basically taking the rap for things that I did that I wasn't necessarily so proud of. But yeah, having that, I think that psychological separation can absolutely be helpful in sort of getting into character for things that you do in business. Now, not too much separation where you have this, other person, because God made you who you are with all your imperfections, and getting nervous about something, like you said, just means that you care a lot about it. And everybody's going to get nervous and have butterflies and all of that. And in sports psychology, I've heard it's making the butterflies fly in formation, just knowing they're going to be
Mm.
there, making friends with it, making friends with the feeling, and then just knowing that you're going to strap up and do your job, harnessing that excitement to do the right thing. And I was fortunate to watch my dad in his professional career growing up, and I always marveled. He worked with a lot of attorneys, and that's probably one of the big reasons why I became one. He had a lot of respect for the legal profession, and seeing him and seeing how he treated people with politeness, with respect, but also just like Jesus was not a pushover. He was a very strong individual, to be able to step up and make your point or insist on doing the right thing or do the right thing, even when you're the only one, when the whole room is on the other side and you're on the opposite side, is something that I have taken a lot of strength from. So, doing that in business, business a lot of times, as you know, is very cutthroat, and it can be, a boys' club, and there can be things talked about in business circles, especially among guys, that are not edifying to God and is not something that God wants you to be doing with your life. So to be that example of someone who can be successful, who can step up and do the right thing, who can be a strong man, but also be humble and be gracious and be polite and all the other things that I expect of her, has been a new challenge.
Most definitely. Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things about parenthood in general is like, well, I would say more so for dads is just accepting that challenge, you know? Like it's going to be a challenge, but are you willing to accept the challenge and everything that comes with it and just know that no matter what, like God's going to have your back and you're going to figure it out. You know what I mean? That's really all it is to it, cuz if you love it that much, then you're for sure going to figure it out, you know? So I got some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
First one being your favorite activity with Remy.
Ooh, lately it's been swimming. She loves to swim. So jumping in the water, doing the backstroke raptor, and diving in grandpa's pool and just seeing her swim across from one side to the other with the floaties on. But that's a lot of fun.
Hey, that's impressive at two. Best advice you receive as a father so far.
Oh, well, the advice you gave me is sleep when the baby sleeps. So that was a really good one. And I took that to heart, because the instinct is to be doing stuff, all the stuff that you couldn't do when they're, hanging onto your leg when they sleep, and just giving yourself that grace to rest, but also expect the unexpected, kind of like I hinted at earlier. I would say the overall thing is, listen to those around you with wisdom, people like you, people like your own parents, other parents, people in church. Every cliche that you ever hear about parenthood is absolutely true in my experience.
Yeah, I agree with you there. What would it be? Oh, well, one word to describe fatherhood.
Mm, challenging.
I know that's right. So yeah, I guess that pretty much wraps up for today. You know what I mean? In closing, you can let the people know how to reach out to you. You know, if there's any other attorneys out there that are dads that I've specifically came across one recently that was telling me he has a hard time burying himself into work so that way he avoids the house because it's like so overwhelming for him. So how could they reach out to you, or even if you want to touch on that for a quick second, and then go from there?
Yeah, if you'd like to reach me, I'm at jeremy@hallfirm.com. That's my email, and 281-465-4065 is the office number. I office at 819 Crossbridge, which is right at the Hardy N45, and I have my own law practice, the Hall Law Firm. I'm a sole practitioner. I litigate, I try cases, civil litigation, some family law, and I do a lot of business transactional work, helping entrepreneurs with startups. So those are some of the business-related things that you can connect with me on if you are in need. And any questions about fatherhood or just wanting to share anything, any feedback, I'll look at the social media comments for sure on this show. But I'm not on social media. I was an early adopter, and I'm sure we'll be able to get into that another time. But yeah, suffice it to say, I've stepped away. My wife keeps me updated on social media. But if you want to comment on something, I'll be sure to see it, and maybe you'll get a response from Ruby Hall. But my email address, will probably drop it in the show too, is a great way to get in touch. And if you're looking for a community, I'm at Woods Edge Community Church every Sunday, 11 a.m. in the main sanctuary, and then on Wednesday nights for the prayer service at 6:30 p.m. as well.
Love it. And any final thoughts for any fathers out there?
You're never going to be ready, but it is not only the greatest challenge, but it is absolutely the greatest joy in life, and so many butterfly effects that I can't even begin to articulate, not only just in enjoying life. Yeah, your time is not your own and you don't have any more free time, but you don't want to. You don't want to go back to the life where you could just do whatever you wanted, because you have so much joy in seeing your child grow. And then in the things that we touched on with personal development, there is nothing that will jumpstart your personal development like having a kid, having that little sponge and that mirror into your own life. So God gives us the gift of children at different times in our life, and whatever time in your life that you're in right now, facing the challenges of parenthood, God put you there for a reason, and he has a plan.
100%. Yeah, and it's definitely a gift, I forgot what the number was on. It's like being born now is like 1 in, 7 billion or something crazy like that. You go look it up. That's your homework. Leave it in the comments. You know what I mean? It's like 1 in something billion people are even born. Like, it's like such a miracle to even be born and be alive. So it's incredible. But yeah, so I hope you guys got a lot out of the show. My name's Tillman. I go by TG3. You can follow us at Phenomenal Fatherhood. We're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, almost all social media platforms. We're on Facebook there. So be sure to like, comment, and let us know. Like, if there's anything you want to hear about that we haven't touched on, drop a comment, drop a question. If you got value out of it, like it, share it, help at least another father out there, because the real value in the community is bringing more exposure and highlighting fathers that are doing a fantastic job, like Jeremy. And also the fact that, like, we show up, you know what I mean? I know there's a lot out there that are for moms, but tap in with the community. We also have phenomenalfatherhood.com. We have the shop there as well, in case you want to get the gear that unlocks the phenomenal father in you. And yeah, we just having a great time, man. And I think that this message is really cool, because I really like the fact that you said that about dads not really talking about that. So that's like something I want to change. It's like we're dads, but at the same time, like, we're really cool. So it's like, yeah, this is like the cool club. Like,
the coolest people I know are dads.
Precisely. Look at The Rock. He's cool. So
I almost look at the single guys now, or married guys without kids, like, oh man, like, I can't wait till you get there. Like, you're
Yeah.
not quite part of the club yet, but once you're in it, you'll get it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, and the funny thing about it too is that, like you said about the timepiece, when you have your kids, it's so interesting because you'll be like, oh, I want to drop them off. And then as soon as you drop them off, it's like you missed them. You know what I mean? And then when you have them, you're like, oh my gosh, I just need a break for like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah.
drop them off, and then you're like, dang, I missed them so much.
The grass is always greener. Yeah, in a kind of raw, exposed, men are people too. We're not just bulletproof, the tough characters that we put on all the time. The first time I was away for Remy for an extended period, it was like 5 days or something. Mom and I went on a trip, and of course, Mom is, finally getting a break and getting to have some of her own time. But man, day 3, 4, like I started having almost like heartache, and then really want like diving over to the phone when Grandma would video call and just like, man, do you want to leave early to get back? Like, this is too long away. So yeah, you really miss those little guys when you spend time away from them.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing about it too is that, with the timepiece, because you don't have as much time because of your kids, like when you do get that moment, you can really squeeze the juice out of that lemon. You're like very intentional about it. When you got all the free time in the world, it's just like, oh, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that. But when you don't have them, and you got this between Friday at 6 p.m. until Sunday at noon, you're like, all right, let's plan this bad boy out. We got ATVs at noon. We're going to skydive by 6. We're going to get dinner after that. You're planning like a whole week in the 3 days. So
I'm
keep
staying
that in
up
mind.
for 72 hours getting all the stuff done.
Yeah, at least go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And then by midnight, you're like, oh, man, I'm actually kind of tired. Let me go ahead and lay it down. I should get some rest.
But hey, real quick, I want to show some photos of
please
Tillman
do.
and I. This is at Woods Edge last week when we stepped up on stage and he asked me a few questions. That's on your channels as well, right? If people want to dig that up.
Yes, sir.
And then here is us getting ready for the 4th of July parade. Shout out to another 2 phenomenal fathers here, Bruce Tuff and his girls, and Brandon Riley has a growing brood of kiddos, 2 great dads. And then here is all of us at 4th of July, the committee. I think that was right before we put on the parade a couple of years ago, and there's a lot of great dads in the picture. But I also really quickly
My kids are there too.
Yeah, look at these guys.
At least Tillman and Aubrey are.
Yeah.
They're like so hungry. I remember that.
Dad, when can we? Yeah, you got 2 of them in there. And real quick, I wanted to also just pay it forward and shout out to fathers that God's put on my heart recently that are doing a great job as dads. Ryan Robinson is a father that I've learned a lot from. My former next door neighbor is doing a great job with his daughter Eve. And then Mikhail Kozarovitsky, I believe you know him as well. He's a great dude and a great dad, and have just really appreciated learning from both of them. So just wanted to acknowledge them.
Love that. See, there you go. Be a phenomenal father. You might get shouted out on the show.
And not the least of which is Tillman. I'll just say, man, watching you grow as a dad, taking strength from those around you. I've said recently when I've seen a couple of my friends whose parents have passed away, sadly, it's getting to that time in life. We're getting older. Our parents are getting even older, and just understanding that life, you can live. Life does go on without that one person, and you've gone through that personally. Mm-hmm. Life goes on without that one person or the people that you looked up to most, that you could always ask, that would fix anything. When the chips are down, who are you going to call? And then when that person's not there, and then you think, gulp, now I'm the person. I am the flag bearer for the family. And seeing some of my friends go through that and just thinking, man, God is showing me, like, this person is like, they're your friend. They're like you. So when that time comes, you can do this. That was my experience with you, seeing you as a young father and all you did as a father. That was one of the things that told me when Remy was on the way, I could do it. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. And that's like one of the butterfly effects, you know what I mean? Like being able to step up, and then like it'll be somebody saying the same thing about you. And it's a beautiful thing, because I think that with all the technology and all the different ways to connect that we have today, that's one of the things I feel like is lost a little bit more. Like we used to have block parties when I was a kid. I knew all the neighbors. I knew everybody. So being able to still impact people in that way and have that influence on like a human to human level is something that will always be more potent than just sending a quick text message or Instagramming something or something like that. So that means a lot to me. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But there you have it. So happy Phenomenal Fatherhood Friday to all the fathers out there. Be sure to tap in with everything I mentioned earlier, all things phenomenal fatherhood. I didn't even realize you had the P on your hat till now, and I said phenomenal like 8 times. And I was like, yo, it's a P. So I was like,
Shout
that's
out
pretty
to
cool.
Philly. Yes, sir. And all the phenomenal fathers out there, happy Phenomenal Fatherhood Friday. And thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir. I'll see y'all soon.